Hey everyone, my name is Jamie Lee. Thank you so much for clicking on this video today and for coming back to my channel. I really appreciate it, like always. Today's video is going to be a look at the BND nutrition guides, specifically the Maintain and Thrive nutrition guide, as that is the one that I have purchased. But there is also a weight loss guide and also a bulking guide. I assume that the actual style of the guides is very similar, so most of the things that I'm going to be talking about today should apply to all of the guides. However, obviously the recipes will probably be a little bit different. The calorie and macro breakdowns for like an average day of eating will probably also be a little bit different. So just keep that in mind if you're looking at buying one of the other guides. Before we get into anything, I just want to throw out the fact that I'm sick right now while I'm recording this, so if my voice sounds a little funny, a little nasalier than usual, or if I seem a little bit downtrodden, that's why. Please forgive me for that. And let's get into the video. So these new nutrition guides were released at the same time as the Get Shreddy home and gym guides, as well as the new BND workout guides. Prior to the launch of these nutrition guides, Grace Fit UK did not have any nutrition information available. She did have a small recipe guide that was included if you bought a bundle for the Grace Fit Guide products, but it was mostly just very simple recipes. I found them a little bit lackluster, very like diet focused in my opinion, and not things that I would really incorporate into my diet or things that I would be willing to pay for necessarily. This was basically pitched as a full meal plan versus just like a compilation of recipes or some diet tips. It's a whole plan to help you get your eating on track, to see the results that you're expecting, along with whatever workout guide that you're purchasing as well, or to be used with completely different workouts or whatever workout that you're doing personally. It doesn't have to be a BND one. So like I said, there are 3 different guides: the weight loss guide, the Maintain and Thrive guide, and the bulking guide. One thing that I found very interesting on the website when you're going to buy any of these guides is the fact that they don't give like a calorie target amount for any of these different guides. I know a lot of times they say like if you're trying to maintain, you should be eating for a man like 2,000 calories, for a woman like 1,800, for average size people. There wasn't really any sort of indication of what sort of calorie target the different guides were going to be hitting, which I found a little bit strange and a kind of off-putting for me personally. They also didn't include like any information about the macronutrient percentage breakdowns or gram totals that you are going to be trying to hit day by day, which I just found that to be a little bit, if you're going to be providing a lot of macro information in the guide itself, you should probably also provide information about what the approximate macronutrient goals are for the guide, so people can decide for themselves like, oh, I'm currently following X macronutrient breakdown and this aligns or doesn't align with what I want to do. One other thing that's obviously very important to mention is Grace Beverly, the CEO of this company, is vegan. She went 100% plant-based probably a year or a couple of years ago now, so all of the nutrition guides are 100% plant-based. They contain absolutely no animal products. I personally am vegetarian. I do not eat meat. I will very occasionally eat fish if it's like in a sauce, sometimes like a piece of fish, particularly if I'm somewhere and it's my only option. I'm not going to starve myself or have something that's what I would consider to be very unhealthy or that I'm not going to enjoy eating. I would rather get fish if that's the case, but regardless, I don't usually follow a fully vegan diet. So obviously, even though the recipes in these guides are all going to be completely vegan, that doesn't mean if you are not vegan, you can't incorporate other things. For instance, if they call for coconut or soy yogurt and neither of those really agree with you, and you're not vegan, you can for sure substitute like just a regular dairy yogurt or a goat's milk yogurt or whatever suits you. I think that there's a real tendency with guides like this for people to kind of have an all or nothing mentality where they're like, oh my god, I don't like eating this one thing that they have on one day, or oh no, I only have coconut yogurt in my fridge and it wants me to have soy, or I only have regular cow's milk, I don't have almond milk, what am I gonna do? That's fine. Know that the calorie totals will obviously be slightly different if you're using different products, but I would always encourage you to calculate your own calories, macros, etc. using an app like MyFitnessPal or LifeSum, because you will obviously be using different inputs in the recipes than exactly what they use when crafting them. So with all of that information out of the way, I guess I should probably talk about the price. So these guides are $45 US. I personally consider that to be pretty pricey for what you get. I obviously have purchased one, like I said, the Maintain and Thrive guide, and haven't been hugely impressed with it personally. I do think that there's a lot of good information in there in terms of how to make sure that you're eating in such a way that you're actually getting all the vitamins and nutrients that you need in a day, how to get protein from plant-based sources, because I know a lot of people are very confused about that. I know when I first went vegetarian, that was something that was a bit of a struggle for me. They also provide kind of like a little grocery list about what sorts of staples you should be able to just pick up whenever you need them, going grocery shopping, kind of do one big shop, get lots of things in bulk, and then reuse those same things over and over again in recipes, which is obviously very helpful, especially if you're somebody who's not already vegan, who's trying to maybe do this diet for a month or a couple of weeks and just see how you feel. It's a lot easier for you to buy like 20 things and reuse those 20 things over and over again than to buy like one specialty ingredient that's going to cost you $40 that you only use once. So I do appreciate that and like that they kind of took that into consideration. Now, one thing that I personally really dislike about these guides is the fact that it appears that they did not do the most thorough job in editing them. I definitely have, in the Maintain and Thrive guide, come across a couple of pretty glaring errors, whether it's misprints in terms of like spelling, grammar, whole areas where they've obviously tried to copy and paste recipes into the actual weekly meal plan, so it just becomes a big garbled mess, and you're trying to figure out what meal you're actually supposed to eat that day. I also encountered one of the recipes, for me in particular, the tomato and aubergine bake. The caloric information and macro breakdown are just completely missing. They're nowhere to be found. Which, things like that are obviously kind of frustrating when you've paid for a product. If this was a free PDF, I think whatever, nobody would be annoyed by it, but you're obviously paying good money for this. It should have been edited to death. And for sure you want to be making sure that any of those problems are taken out before you actually start selling the product and sending it to your customers. A little bit of extra time in the future dedicated to making sure that everything is correct would probably help greatly. Now, on to the actual recipes themselves. I did find that there's pretty good variety in the recipes that you're eating on like a day-by-day basis. There are a lot of cold breakfasts, which I find a little bit interesting. A lot of different types of smoothies, overnight oats, overnight chia pudding, which I guess that it just depends on where you're from. I'm very used to eating a hot breakfast every morning. So that's something that obviously if I'm doing this guide, I'm probably going to have to swap out some of the cold breakfasts for hot ones. And then of course you have to start considering, well, how is that going to affect my macros for the day, my proteins for the day, whatever. I also found that there were a lot of recipes that contained cilantro, so which I know is a very touchy ingredient. So if you absolutely can't stand cilantro, can't have it anywhere near you no matter what, that's just something to consider. Obviously you can replace that with other flavors, but it's not going to be the same. Overall, I found the portions to be more than reasonable. I obviously am very small. It's hard to tell on camera, but I am 5'1". I'm a pretty tiny person. So for me, I think the portions were even a bit too large, particularly for like breakfast and lunch. I oftentimes found myself not being able to completely finish something and having to throw a little bit away. But I think that they probably are appropriate sizes for like a little bit bigger of people. So if you're a bit taller or you just have like a pretty fast metabolism for your size, these would probably be pretty standard sizes for you. But for me, like I said, I found them to be very large, so you don't have to worry about starving because you won't. Now, one of the things that I think could be done better if they do go through the guides again in the future and want to improve them a bit would be to include an actual breakdown of like your macronutrients and calorie totals by day and then like by week in total. I think that, at least from a consumer's perspective, so somebody who bought the guide and is reading through it, it kind of reads through like a dietitian sat down or a nutritionist or whoever they had and came up with a bunch of pretty easy to make vegan recipes that are like pretty healthy, calculated the macros for them, calculated the calories, but then just mix and matched them to make like a meal plan, but didn't necessarily put a ton of thought into like balancing out like the calorie and macro amounts day by day and week by week. Because I personally spent a lot of time plugging them all into spreadsheets and trying to like figure out what the averages are, but like on a day-by-day basis, your calories could be on the Maintain and Thrive plan as low as like 1650 and as high as like 2000 on some days. And that's just the days that I calculated. I only did a random sampling of days, so there could be ones that are higher or lower than that. I also found that the macro amounts vary a ton day over day, which I'm not somebody who tracks macros super closely. Sometimes I wish I was. I think I'd be much better placed if I did, but I personally find it a little bit overwhelming to track it, like track all my food every day. I try and be a little bit more intuitive. But for instance, there are some days where your fats are as low as 11%, and I have a day where the fats are 32% of the total calories that you're eating. There's a day where your protein is 18% and a day where your protein's 30%. That to me seems like a very large variation for a targeted meal plan for maintaining and thriving. I know usually most people I know who track their macros try and stay like within a very small percentage of variation on a day-by-day basis, and definitely on a week-by-week basis. And with variations like these, it just seems like there's no way you'd be that close. Like, just for your carbs, I have one day where your carbs end up being 40% of your total calorie consumption. There's another day where they're 70%. 30% difference seems enormous to me. And like I said, that seems to lend very much to my presumption that they basically came up with individual recipes and then just said, okay, mix and match them over different days and we'll figure it out. The thing that concerns me about that is I wonder how much thought they put into your actual micronutrients as well, because obviously there are certain nutrients that you need every day. They help to keep your skin and your hair healthy. They help to keep your gut healthy. Basically, they help you run. And I would certainly hope, if this was made by a registered dietitian, which I believe it was advertised as being, that all of those nutrients will be accounted for. So like even if you're a tiny bit lacking one day, the next day you'd make up for it, etc. But if they didn't bother to actually figure that out with all of the different macros and your calories vary so much, it makes me feel a little bit nervous about the actual micronutrients and if they've figured out how much you're getting per day. So I did actually record a full week of me eating just off of this meal plan, just following it exactly what they said. I definitely don't think I have time for it in this video just because it's very long. I recorded a lot. If you're interested in seeing just and obviously I'll edit it down so it's not crazy, but if you're interested in seeing me actually eat the vegan meal plan, the Maintain and Thrive plan for a week, all the meals, all the snacks, and I would also be following the BND Get Shreddy guide because I'm doing that right now. if you're interested in seeing that kind of video that's more of like a vloggy style, let me know in the comments. I would definitely consider doing that. I don't see why not. I already have it filmed, so it would be pretty easy to throw together. But I think that my final opinion on these nutrition guides is that for me personally, I didn't find it worth the money at all. The recipes are all, like I said, fairly simple. They're things that you could definitely get for free on the internet if you were just looking up healthy vegan meals or things similar to this for sure. I do think that if you're completely new to nutrition, you don't know where to start, you don't know what to do, something like this can be very helpful at helping to structure your eating. So like if you're used to having like 2 or 3 huge meals a day and you feel like you don't understand what size of portion you need, something like this can be very helpful for that, because you know, okay, at lunch today I'm having a tofu stir fry. I know I'm having this portion and I could make it in advance. It doesn't matter. I can make it at lunchtime because I know exactly what I'm going to eat. And I think that that could be very helpful for beginners. If you already have some sort of base knowledge of how you should be eating, the foods you like to eat, the things that make you and your body feel good, I don't know how useful this guide would be to you. In all honesty, I don't think that it's very useful for me, just because I already do eat very healthy. I already understand a healthy portion size. And for sure, don't get me wrong, you don't need a guide like this to tell you what a healthy portion size is. I always say first is obviously listen to your body. If you're eating slowly and mindfully and you reach a point, you're halfway done your meal and you go, I don't feel very hungry anymore. Like, I don't need to keep eating. I just want to keep eating because it's sitting in front of me. That's probably the right portion size for you, but you can also get a multitude of helpful information online. I would strongly recommend, if you're new to nutrition and trying to figure out what you're doing, to either book an appointment with an actual nutritionist or dietitian to talk about it with them, or if you believe that you'll be able to figure it out on your own, I definitely just figured it out by myself. Do lots of research online. There are plenty of resources for you. And consider buying a food scale. I know a lot of people are very afraid of scales and weighing their food and think that like it's a toxic behavior, but I think it's absolutely enlightening and eye-opening to just like have the scale and be able to say, what is 100 calories worth of brown rice? Just out of curiosity. Because I think that once you know that with like the couple of staple foods that you eat all the time, it can be very helpful for when you're like going out to eat and you're trying to figure out, like, I'm at this small restaurant, they don't include the calories on the menu, what should I get? I want to stay under like 600 calories for my dinner, whatever. It can be very helpful. I also just want to throw it as a disclaimer that I do not think that there is a one-size-fits-all nutrition plan that's going to work for everybody. I think that the idea that there is just a farce, honestly. Different things will work for you than will work for me. Some people could never be vegan or vegetarian. Some people probably thrive on that a lot more than they did eating meat products. Some people prefer to eat mostly meat products. Like, it's up to you. It's your eating, it's your body. Do what you need to do to be happy and healthy and feel good about yourself. I think, like I said, that if you do need some help with your nutrition, I think that talking to your doctor or nutritionist is probably always step one, is a good place to start, or doing lots and lots of research from unbiased scientific sources is also good. If you think that following a vegan nutrition plan to the letter would help you start off your nutrition journey, then something like one of these guides could probably be useful to you. Otherwise, I personally would try and save my money. I don't think that this is the most economical or efficient way of teaching yourself how to just eat a little bit better and be healthier. A lot of the recipes, like I said, were pretty good, but that doesn't mean that you can't get that same quality of recipes in other places. If you are looking for vegan recipes, or if you're a vegetarian and you're just trying to find new stuff, my favorite vegan cookbook is definitely Oshi Glows, which I know is probably recommended to death, but I make so many of those recipes on a regular basis and they're absolutely delicious. If you are looking for a really good, pretty healthy make ahead breakfast, they have a baked pear and apple oatmeal that is absolutely delicious, one of the best things you'll ever eat, and it's not terribly bad for you, so that always helps. If you've purchased any of the B&D nutrition guides, I would love to hear from you in the comments below. Let me know what your thoughts were, if you agree with me, if you disagree with me. Like I said, I'm sick, so my brain is definitely a little bit foggy today, so if this is not up to par with my usual videos and how in-depth I get, I very much apologize for that. If there's anything else you want me to cover in terms of these guides, you can also feel free to shout that out below. I would definitely do a follow-up if needed. That's all I have for you guys today. I know that people are probably going to ask about these leggings because they look a lot like the Gymshark Lounge leggings, but they're not. They are from Fashion Nova and they cost me next to nothing. I will link them down below. They're pretty cute. The waistband is very annoying because it rolls around a lot, but I did get my mom to sew mine in for me. Thanks, Mom. That's everything I have now. If you are not already subscribed, please consider hitting the big red subscribe button. I put out a new video every single Tuesday. Hit the bell to be notified when the video goes up. Please make sure to give the video a thumbs up if you enjoyed it. And I will see all of you guys next time. I love you very much. Bye!